Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm sure this is a very happy Friday, right? And one of your highlights in the Hong Kong U campus life. Wow. So welcome, Daniel, on behalf of HKU and also Giant Education, Tongsik Gayobo. I'm sure Tommy has introduced himself and a little bit about the talk. Right. And I am Chi Chung. I've been having this privilege to know Daniel since 1998.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is also a very important year for a lot of things, especially for the Hong Kong U movie. Have you seen the movie City of Glass? Bo Lei Ji Sing. Have you seen him in the movie? Oh, yes. So he was in the Hodong Hall. Any Hodong, Lady Hodong? Oh, wow. Give yourself a round of applause. Okay. And also was shot in U-Hall.
Yeah.
And any U-Hall mates? Okay. And Dr. Chow was warden, U-Hall warden. And 1997, when Daniel returned from the States back to Hong Kong, he witnessed the handover of Hong Kong, and then joining in into this performance or creative industry, I must say. Entertainment industry. And today we also have a very interesting and very innovative, creative approach to this sort of a talk. And because we have listed about 15 questions. And then Daniel is a very visual guy, of course.
Yeah.
And he has go online like all of you, not now. Prepare for a few hours, and then you can tell us how we're going to approach this.
I decided to try something different this time because I think talking sometimes is just really boring for people. So I decided to add some visual to the talk. So Chi Chung prepared like 15 questions, and based on either the certain words in the question or certain answers that I'm going to give, I just wrote that in Google Images. And then it just popped up a whole bunch of images, and then I would choose one that I felt was appropriate to my answer. So it's not necessarily related to me per se, but it's something I thought was interesting or helpful to the answer and understanding visually what I'm talking about as well. So it's the first time I'm trying this. It may or may not work, so tell me how it goes afterwards.
So it's innovative as well as experimental.
Sure.
This is how the spirit
Although
goes.
you guys are probably much more advanced in computers than I am, so you could probably figure out a better way to do it. I don't even know how to use PowerPoint, so it's just a slideshow.
And as the topic goes, the metamorphosis of Daniel. I mean, he's an architecture student, as all of you know, and he's also an actor, from acting to directing, and also to be an entrepreneur, and to be an environmentalist, and a lot more. That's why let's move on with the pictures he has chosen. And thanks to his teammates like Teresa and also Chong. Give them a round of applause to give a lot of time to support this event. From the Revolution, the label, And we have, this first question is about dreams. Please tell us about your dreams when you were a teenager.
I think I've always wanted to be an artist, like a visual artist, since I was like 4 or 5 years old. I always loved drawing. So, let's go. Wait, am I controlling this?
Maybe, we should stay on one
Wait, go
picture,
to the number one.
Yeah, number one should be Picasso, right?
Yeah.
Let's stay on that. Thank you, Leo.
And then what do I push to forward it? This on the right? Okay. So here's Picasso. Here's Picasso. I wanted to, my dream was to be like Picasso, maybe. You know, a famous artist. Next picture. And here's a little quote from Picasso. Learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. That's a philosophy that I like to go by. You know, I like to know standardly how everyone does something, but then figure out a way to do it on your own, find your own individual way to do it. There's another artist I like, Warhol. Do you guys know Andy Warhol? He just had an exhibit there in TST, and he's got some famous quotes. Everybody must have a fantasy. Another one. You have to do the stuff that average people don't understand because those are the only good things. These are just inspirational quotes. Yeah, I wanted to be an artist, but growing up in a Chinese family, that doesn't work because artists don't make money, right? My dad was an engineer. My mom is a college professor. Education is very, very important to them. And especially being immigrants, first-generation immigrants to America, to them, a professional skill was the most important thing. So, of course, they wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer like my dad. But I just couldn't do that. Creativity was way too important to me. Art was too important to me. So I decided I'll choose another profession.
You chose architecture.
Yes.
That was wonderful.
Howard Rourke, architect. Do you know what this is from?
Mm.
Do you know what this is from?
This film,
Yeah.
is it The Fountainhead?
Yes, very good. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. As a it was a book I was required to read my first year in architecture school. But let me go back why I chose architecture. Because architecture is an art, but it's also a respected profession. So I was able to find something that would make my parents happy, but also make me happy. I was also lucky that I grew up with a lot of friends who were good artists, but my best friend's father was an architect. So I was able to see in his house, he had his office in his house, all these projects he was doing while I was growing up. So it interested me, and I felt, oh, well, it's very close to visual art, but it's a real profession and something my parents would accept. So then I decided to go on that route, and I became very passionate about architecture. This photo is Gary Cooper playing this architect, Howard Rourke, based on a very famous book called that Ayn Rand wrote called The Fountainhead. I think you should all read it. It's a really interesting book about individualism and expressing yourself and fighting for what you believe in and fighting for your dreams, going back to dreams again. Mm-hmm. Let's see what here's the book, The Fountainhead.
Wow.
It's
Any
very
architect
thick.
students here? Sorry.
And any architecture students here? Anyone have read this book?
Yeah, who have read this book? Not yet. Okay.
No one's read this book? Who's in architecture?
I do see some architecture students here.
Have you read this book? Oh, you got to read it. You have to read it.
So,
you have to read it.
Yeah,
This
thanks
is,
to Professor.
This is what our first book we read when we were in Architecture 101 or whatever. The individual against the collective.
Oh.
To be an individual is always harder than to be part of a group. But the individual is what's creating new things and being progressive and making the world change and move. But it's always hard to be someone who wants to change things. People are resistant to change. So to be able to be in a position where you can change the world or change things, you have to start within yourself and have a really strong foundation of who you are and what you want to be, what you want to do. So going back to me, I decided to go into architecture because I felt this is a perfect middle ground. And it was an education that I really, really, really loved. Because not only did I learn much about architecture and architecture history, but you learned about history in general, sociology, math, structure, physics, arts, film, everything. So it was a very, very good general education that I could apply to pretty much anything that was creative. And that's really what I wanted to do, was just do any job that was creative. And what architecture taught me was a creative process. And we'll go into that later. There's some other questions later that relate to that.
It's really amazing that being so young and you know where to find the middle ground, to find a balance. As you mentioned, you being an American Chinese, about this global and also local citizenship. These days we have a lot of debates, even in Hong Kong, we have a lot of conflicts about one's individual identity. So when you're living in the States, how were you, facing this kind of racial or political or even personal any events?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting upbringing because I grew up in a small town that was mostly white kids.
Okay.
And there was probably only like 5 Chinese in my school, in my elementary school. So I didn't experience racism per se, but I would say maybe a little bit of prejudice. Of course, there's kids that say stupid things, and stuff like that, and you have to deal with that, and that's just part of growing up. But it was very early on that I realized I was very different than the other kids around me. And even when I went home, my parents reminded me that I was different. They're like, you can do whatever you want, but you can never forget that you are Chinese. This is very important to them. You can't forget your roots. You can't forget your culture. And if you know my name, Wu Yanzu, means remember your ancestors, right? Our whole family is Wu Yan something, Wu Yan something, Wu Yan something. So it's all about remembering your ancestors, remembering your culture, remembering your country, all that kind of stuff. So that was really ingrained in my life growing up. And whenever I mean, and there's always conflict. There's always going to be conflict because when I came back to Hong Kong, I thought I was very Chinese because I did kung fu growing up. I watched Hong Kong movies. I had a lot of Chinese friends, more Chinese friends than white friends in America. And then when I came to Hong Kong, everyone called me 鬼仔. 你識用筷子喎，咁得意. How come you know how to use chopsticks? I said, I'm Chinese. I ate Chinese food at home. So then you have this sort of, who am I? What am I? And then I would think about people that have similar backgrounds to me. Like him. I think he had identity issues too, because he was born in San Francisco, raised in Hong Kong, went back to America to university, or high school and university, then tried to make it in the film business there, but was blocked by white America basically at that time. They couldn't deal with the idea that a Chinese guy could be a lead role in a TV series, Kung Fu, which ended up being played by a white guy. And then he came back to Hong Kong and had a success. So I see a lot of parallels in his life with my life in some ways. We're both born in San Francisco. We both have this deep connection to Hong Kong. And then Hong Kong eventually both made us stars. So whenever I have questions about identity, I start thinking about people like that. And thinking about him. Not as an idol, but as an inspiration to me.
So did you start dreaming that time when you see like Bruce Lee as an inspiring figure? Did you start to dream like, oh, I want to be like Bruce Lee, or? Yeah,
I wanted to be like Bruce Lee. Not that I wanted to be a movie star, because when I came back to Hong Kong, I still had no idea that I was going to enter the entertainment business. This is a story we'll go into in a second. I was pulled into the entertainment business, but I looked at him as an inspiration for fighting against adversity. And him using one philosophy that he put into his martial arts, into his movies, into his life, and into his family, and all that was part of one thing.
Holistic, yeah.
A very holistic ideology that he had, and then maybe that's because he studied philosophy in university, and that's why that was so important to him. But having that one common ground that takes you through all the things you do was really interesting to me, and also enlightening as well. And then once I got into the film business, I saw much more parallels. Now, the way I got into the film business is totally different story, off the track. I studied architecture. I graduated. I wanted to be an architect. My last couple years in school, I'd worked for different companies, and I realized maybe architecture is not going to be the final profession I end up in, which is funny because I remember the first day of architecture school, they said, only 10% of you sitting here are actually going to become architects. The rest of you will do something else. And I'm like, no, that's not going to be me. I'm going to be an architect. And then finally when I graduated, it turns out it wasn't. It was because I really enjoyed the schooling. I really enjoyed the education. I really enjoyed the process of design and creativity. But I felt like when I was working in certain offices, it was maybe the offices that I chose to work at, it wasn't very creative. It was like doing a shopping mall in China. That's just really boring, and it's boring architecture, really, honestly, a shopping mall, or an office tower that is the rules are generated by the building code and not by design, aesthetics. And in school, we're taught to be totally design first. Design will save humanity, and I was very idealistic. And so when I worked in the office, I'm like, this is not what we learned in school. And I'm not to say that all architecture firms are like that. I'm not to get you down, because I think architecture is still wonderful and it's still a very important thing for our society. But I just knew that maybe that's not something I could do or I could deal with at that point. So I came to Hong Kong in '97, just graduated from the University of Oregon with a B.Arch in architecture, and I was planning to figure out what I was going to do with my life. So the handover was an excuse to come and see a historical moment. In America, you don't really get to take part in very many historical moments because America's history is very short. Yeah. I guess Obama being the first black president elected and being at the inauguration, that would be a very historical moment. But I hadn't seen so many. And I wanted to see something that I could be proud of, Hong Kong, which is a British colony going back to the motherland, China. I wanted to see that. I wanted to be part of that. So I came back for that. And I was going to travel around Asia for 3 months and then head back to the U.S. and look for some kind of job, graphic design, set design, something, I don't know. And then I was in Lang Kwai Fong having a drink, and somebody asked me to be in a TV commercial. And I said, okay, sure. I don't have any money, so do you pay? Does it pay? And they're like, yeah, it pays a little bit of money. I think it was like $4,000 US.
Wow.
So
pretty good.
It was pretty good. For a college graduate student, that was really good. That was like half my tuition at the time. So I said, sure. So I did it, and then Yang Fan Dao Yan, my first director, saw the advertisement and then called me in to cast for the movie. And at the time, I didn't speak Cantonese very well. I only knew how to swear. I only knew bad words. And I didn't think that I was right for the part, mainly because I'd never acted before. And I was always a very kind of internal person. I expressed myself through my drawing, through my work, but never orally. And I didn't.
So it was actually a new challenge for you.
Yeah, it was a huge challenge, and I actually turned it down. I turned the movie down because I didn't think I could do it. I took some film classes in college, and I know making a movie is not fun and games. It's hard work, and to put all your dream or put all your money on a guy who's brand new, never acted before, to be your leading man in the movie, it's a big gamble. And I was like, I don't think I want to screw up your movie for you, you know. And he goes, no, I think you can do it. I think you can do it. And I said, really, I don't want to mess this up for you because this is your dream too. And if I, as your leading man, screw this movie up and screw everything up for you, then I don't want to take that responsibility. He's like, no, you'll be great. So at the end I said, okay, look, if you don't blame me if it turns out bad, I'll do it because I don't want to have that pressure. And he said, okay, we'll work on it. So we had a couple months, and I accepted, and we had a couple months before the film started, and I was in his office every day working on this film and trying to build a character and figure out how to act and figure out how to speak Chinese all in 2 months to do this movie. So that's how it started.
Wow, it covers our question 3, 4, 5, our internal note. Okay,
but we'll get to it.
This is really great, and the philosophy of dare to dream, and also to find your career path, and to merge of your own dreams as like martial arts, as an architect, as an artist, and film is not something new, because when you were studying architecture, you love movies. You like Louis Besson and Akira Kurosawa, all these great men of vision. And then when you were being an actor and later on moving on to becoming a producer first and then a director, how does that roll from the first in front of this camera, and now you want to be at the back of the stage? So to many people, it's kind of a very, very different decision.
I think it's because of my architectural background that I tend to want to be someone who does stuff in the background more than in the foreground. Actually, I have to say, like, as being a quote-unquote movie star, it's not something I'm comfortable with, and I'm not comfortable necessarily being a public persona. But I really enjoy the film business and what it is and what films can bring to people. And that's really like important to me. And that's the sort of metamorphosis into behind the scenes, producing and directing was just a very natural progression for me, because as I was on set as an actor, I'm watching what's going on. I'm watching the directors, how they work, how they get certain performances out of people. And you just absorb that stuff. If you're interested in it, you will absorb it. And so after 10, 12, 13, 14 years of experience, you have this knowledge in your head, and so why don't you use it for something productive, which is producing a movie or directing a movie or something else that's other than something so self-serving as being an actor. I think sometimes acting is interesting because you're very passive, but it's also very narcissistic, self-centered profession, and that's not necessarily who I am, all of who I am. And so I needed to satisfy other creative desires within me, which is how I got into producing and directing. Yeah.
Is there any piece of film production that you really liked, like any film, or
that I was involved in as an actor or as a producer, or
as an actor or producer?
I think that obviously the one closest to me is the one I directed, which is Heavenly Kings, because I produced and wrote and acted it.
CEDARS-General Wang, who has seen them?
It's a very obscure.
It's a mockumentary.
Yeah, it's very me. It's very. interesting because it's not a mainstream type of film.
Yes, it's very funny.
And it's kind of it's a satire on the Hong Kong pop music industry, but also on the global pop music in general, and what's going on, and playing with ideas of what entertainment is today. Is a fake story just as valuable as a real story, as long as it entertains you, it seems like what's happening now. If you watch reality TV, right? Everyone knows half that stuff is fake, but you still watch it anyway because it's somehow dramatic and interesting, right?
But then the brothers like Terence, Andrew, and Conroy are really your musical friends and also very close friends of you. And now one of them is also your artist under your label. Yeah. And from that record, I mean, the production of the film also won you an award. So, right?
Sorry?
As a director.
Award, yeah.
So how does that, encourage you or to move on to try something else, like to be a director more or as a background person?
Yeah, I think it gave me confidence in that, okay, I absorbed a lot of working experience from working on set, being on set for 12 years at that time, and finally able to make a movie. And not just make a movie, but express myself, which is one thing that Bruce Lee always says, learn to express yourself fully, freely, of who you are. And that film was the first time I was able to do that. Because when you're playing as an actor, when you're playing a role, you're not playing yourself. This is one thing that audience have a hard time separating, that a star is not necessarily the role he is. And as a director, it's totally different because it's all you. All the ideas, all the concepts, all the messages that you're putting in that movie are things you want people to take home with them. And so that becomes more a reflection of you than anything else.
So you do enjoy being more as a producer than an actor? Should I say?
No, I enjoy both. It's just a different kind of satisfaction. As an actor, it's like being a member of a soccer team. And when you win, you've helped this team achieve success, right? When you are a director, you're the coach of the team. You've planned how they won. It's a different kind of satisfaction, and both are really interesting and both are really fun. It's just at different times I feel different ways, so then I go for whatever how I'm feeling.
Going on different paths of these different roles, I and my teammates, maybe Tommy and the fellow students too, do you find it's quite a smooth ride for Daniel? And some people want us to ask this question. It seems to be not an easy, but a very smooth, successful stardom. And then, well, of course, there must be some hard times. We're here. Okay. And, what do you think those hard times are, and how did you overcome them?
Hard times. Yeah. It was hard times.
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, good picture.
Actually, we digressed from a lot of the photos. I'll go back later, but yeah, of course. It seems like everything is smooth, and when you look at gossip magazines and stuff like that, yes, there's bad gossip and stuff, but most people have a great life. But it's not easy. It's not easy to be in this business. Every day there's obstacles. But if you have a passion for it, it's what gets you past those obstacles. It's when you realize that you can't get past that obstacle is when you realize that you might be in the wrong profession. And then you might have to think about moving on. And the good thing was that all this happened to me when I was really young. And I was able to have an open mind to just accept it as it went. And so obstacles, most can be overcome by the appropriate use of explosives. No, it's just a joke. But no, the thing is, passion is what's going to give you the drive to keep going and keep getting up. Here's another quote from Muhammad Ali. Inside of a ring or out, ain't nothing wrong with going down. It's staying down that's wrong. So if you get knocked down, you have to get back up. That's just it. You get back up and keep going, right? Ali, one of the greatest boxers in the world, will tell you that. And I think that applies to everyone from Bruce Lee to anyone who's successful. Life is not smooth. You realize that when you get a little bit older, but life is not ever going to be totally smooth. It's just how you deal with those bumps, and if you have good shock absorbers to deal with it. And that's the most important thing.
Can you share one or two those moments, and like for example, well, those girls like tell us the stories. Those real specific moments. You don't have to go into like names or.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the first time I kind of experienced in this business difficulties, I think it was probably like by my 4th or 5th year into it, and it's. Any kind of business, but especially entertainment, and in Hong Kong, because everything's so fast-paced, things just roll and snowball, and you can get headed and put in a direction that you not necessarily want to head into. And I was doing movies that I wasn't really liking because at the time management thought it'd be great to have a lot of work. A lot of work is better than no work, but from my perspective, it's the quality of the work you do is most important. But the mentality here in Hong Kong is just get as much work done and make as much money as you can and be rich. That's all that matters. But to me, I just couldn't get over that. I had to have my own artistic satisfaction. And so there was a period where I was making a bunch of movies that I didn't like. They were crappy movies, shot in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. And the pay was good or whatever, but that wasn't making me happy. So I left. I stopped. I did the last movie in the contract. There was like a 3 or 4 movie contract. I stopped. And I left, and I went to practice wushu in China with the Shanghai Wushu team for 6 weeks, and just basically it was like going into the army again.
So it's like going back to an earlier passion that you had.
Yeah,
younger.
and rekindling a passion, rekindling a fire, and just finding myself again. And because I felt like I lost myself.
Oh, okay.
I felt like people had pushed me in a direction. People had wanted me to become something I didn't really want to be. And so I needed to go back to something that I knew, which was martial arts, which I'd been doing my whole life, and go back to that and start again and build up again. So again, that's like falling down and then getting back up, or finding a way to get back up. So I did that, took some time off, came back and did a play, didn't do a movie for a while, did a play, and then found myself again. And then I was very lucky because several things happened. Derek Yi Dong-sing, found me to do Wang Ga Hai, which is a movie that I think was one of my, I'm trying to find it here.
Wang Ga Hai, have you watched it?
Wang Jiao Hei Ye. Here it is.
Wang Jiao Hei.
We're totally out of order now,
That's
so here it is.
Wow.
And this put me back on track, because this is the kind of movie that I like watching. Directed by a director that I love, and I just found myself again. So this is an example of falling down, getting back up, and finding your path. I mean, it was also lucky too that I found the right people at the right time. But I think the idea of pulling away from it all and looking, because when you're down inside something, in the midst of something, sometimes you can't see clearly, and sometimes you need to remove yourself from the situation and look at it as a whole. And find your direction again, and that's what I do. You need to Google Earth yourself, or Google Map yourself. Take a look at things, and then go back into it and keep going.
And we just passed through some of the names and pictures that it might be related to those kind of seeking your own roots, that your favorite directors and those important inspirations. Maybe you can share some with our young audience here.
Here is one of my favorite directors, Stanley Kubrick.
Oh.
And he did a movie called Clockwork Orange, which when I was 14, I think I saw this movie. And it's a very crazy movie to see when you're 14.
Yeah.
But it changed the way I looked at film from that point onwards.
发条墙在中文对吗？
Yeah.
发条墙。
We have a copy in the library.
Oh, thank you.
This is not a very PG movie. It's very violent. It's very dark. It's very... it just shows the darkness of humanity. But at the time, it woke me up to what art could be, what film could be, and what storytelling could be. Because before that, I was watching the same movies everybody else was watching: Ghostbusters, Disney movies, stuff like that.
It was actually very creative.
Yeah,
like,
and for that time, very progressive,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And then later, I moved on to Akira Kurosawa, 黑泽明, and Seven Samurai is probably one of my favorite films that he's ever made. And then now Orson Welles, another huge inspiration for me, and he was a huge inspiration for CEDARS-General because he did a movie called F for Fake, which was about telling a story, and what is the actual truth of telling a story, and how important that is. And that was basically the concept of Heavenly Kings. He did a movie called Citizen Kane, where he acted, directed, and produced, and wrote. So this kind of guy is very inspirational to me because he does everything, and it's something like I would like to do at some point. And then there's
a bit entrepreneurial in that sense.
Yeah, very entrepreneurial. Same thing with Tarantino as well.
Wow.
He's created a whole brand of film for himself, and you know,
cult movie
Pulp
series.
Fiction was a very influential movie for me. Yeah.
Me too.
And other actors I like, Cate Blanchett.
Wow.
She's great. It was hard to find a picture of her because she looks so different in every picture, and that just shows how good of an actress she is, actually.
She even played Bob Dylan as a male.
Yeah, Bob Dylan is pretty amazing. Benicio Del Toro. There was more actors, but I didn't have time to pull them up. So
I think he has a new movie called "Say No to the Government." Yeah, in this new film festival. Check out in the new release.
He's another interesting actor who's made interesting choices because he got really popular and he could have gone and done all these like $100 million Disney movies, but he decided not to. He decided to play Che Guevara instead, or he decided to do more interesting works instead. So I don't exactly do that, but I'd like to follow those kind of rules.
So as everyone knows, Daniel is more than the face, and with death. And Tommy just asked about entrepreneurship. I'm sure everyone, well, not everyone, but many people would love to know, being employed as an actor or as a model, as a, artist. And now you hire your own staff also to be an entrepreneur to a certain extent. But your business philosophy, or some people would say the business ethics are quite different from the mainstream ones. How do you define this, or how would you establish this kind of
I guess
ethics?
My main business philosophy is not very entrepreneurial because we're not about making money. We're about creating culture. So I have two companies. This has nothing to do with that, but Revolution Talent Management is the management company now that I run, and we have several artists in the company, including Jun Kong. Let's see, Jun Kong, and Yase Mei, 24 Herbs. And this picture is pretty interesting, isn't it? Because this is from Clockwork Orange.
Oh yeah.
And this is from. So some of my influences come back to affect certain things. But very two successful musicians in my company now, and my whole point was at the time is I just want to help my friends. June was at a time where he had no management, no direction really, and he wanted to come back to the industry. He had been away for about 10 years, hadn't done an album in 10 years, and my goal was to create a new album or create a creative space for him to have the creative freedom to do what he wanted. And same thing with 24 Herbs at the same time. They're a group of rappers that don't like to be told what to do. They like to figure out what they want to do. So I want to create a management company that allows the individual artists to have their freedom to create what they want and tell the messages they want to tell. Because in most Hong Kong or Asian style entertainment companies, it's not necessarily dictated by the artist. They have writers write songs for them. They have production teams build their image for them. And they're playing a role. They're not necessarily being themselves. Whereas my company is about being yourself and finding your own creative outlet.
And having fun.
Yeah, and having fun at it. And then the other company, that's Monster Sushi. That's just a restaurant that you can go eat at because I like food.
It's great.
Yeah.
And from entrepreneurship, I think we all know that Daniel is also very active in being an environmentalist, to join in a lot of social goodwill events to clean the beach, and also recently to bring your artists and friends to run for this 10 km run, right? Be Hero.
Oh, yeah, Be Hero.
Be Hero, yeah.
And that was for the Seagull Satyo. Sorry? I forgot the English translation.
Schizophrenic.
Schizophrenic association. It's for mental disease and mental illness. And that's just because recently I played a character who had mental illness, and I got involved with this organization. They just happened to be doing that. So charity and environmental work and all that stuff is all tied into basically one philosophy again, is that I feel that my job, there's a lot of focus put on me as an artist or a celebrity, but sometimes I don't really want that focus put on me. So I'd rather be put on interests that I'm interested in, which is changing society, changing cultural habits, changing problems that we have. And one of them is environment. I think environment is something we, as in Asia, are very, very lacking in knowledge of. We don't know how our garbage is dealt with. You guys throw all this junk away and it goes somewhere and you don't know where it goes. It gets buried in China somewhere. And that's not a good example. There's an island floating in the South Pacific of just plastic garbage that's like bigger than Hong Kong Island itself. That's just floating there. All this garbage is floated around and created this mess. And it's stuff that we have, our generation, your generation really has to care about, because it's going to be your generation and your kids dealing with that. And although China and Hong Kong has developed very fast, we can't forget that in development you also create a lot of waste, and that waste has to be dealt with. And so we all have to do our part somehow to change that. And I find it really important, whether it's, you know, shutting down your laptop, turning off the lights when you leave the room. Something small like that from an individual as a whole, when you're all collectively, is a huge help. So I just want people to be more conscious about how they live. And it's very easy when you live in a city to not pay attention to those kind of things. Yeah. Everything is taken care of for you. But really it's not. It's just pushed to the side until someone else deals with it. And who is going to be that someone else? The next generation, or you. So you have to care about that.
But I guess it's a bit hard to change how people think, or just to raise the awareness of it.
I mean, changing, keep your coins. I don't want your money, I want you to change. You know, that's the hardest thing, is getting society, getting culture to change. Yeah, right now everyone in China wants to buy. I want to buy the newest phone, I want to buy the newest camera. You know, that's all you guys have, you know. And you don't think about how much waste that creates. And now I do things like, I don't buy something new until it's fully broken. Like, I know that it's broken. My phone I've had for 2 years now. I will not get rid of it until it's broken. You know, I don't buy into this global consumer bullshit, which is that you have to change your phone every year. Every time the new iPhone comes out, you have to change the next one. It's bullshit. You don't need to do that. They have enough money. You don't have enough money. Don't waste your money on that stuff. Put it in something good, you know. You know, things like that. But it's hard to get people to change. So if I can use my influence to influence others, why not? I'd rather influence people to do that than to, you know, buy my album or something like that. I'd rather you change your habit, change one single habit for me, than I'd rather you do that than even go see a movie, honestly. You know, honestly, because that's really our future, and that's the world. Yeah, otherwise this is going to happen. It's already happening. Global warming is happening. It's not fake. I've seen it everywhere. You're seeing it. You're seeing it in Hong Kong. Last year the weather's crazy. This year the weather's crazy. We've never seen this kind of stuff happen before, so we got to do something about it.
Yes, I think Tommy and I are ready to pass on to the floor, right? And then before that, let's check out our game plan. Any more images, or do you want to answer this now or later?
Oh yeah, it can be, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One of the questions, I think, about
this one.
Yeah. Are you ready to be a newborn baby's daddy? How does parenthood will change you? I mean, as a person in different kind of roles and identities, like the Metamorphosis story or thematic discussion today.
I think that's what I'm thinking about now. Parenting is hard. I'm going to have a daughter, and she's going to do that to me all the time, I know it.
Yeah, looks like mine. Mine is 7-year-old.
No, I'm really excited to start this whole new chapter in my life, because I think, as I was saying, the similar ideas is that, you know, in this business, and also like in my 20s, I was very self-focused. Then I realized when I got into my 30s that I wanted to do more than just work on myself. I wanted to help others. And then now I'm getting almost 40 now. I'm late 30s. Now I want to have something to focus on other than myself, which is a family. You know, and I'm already married, so now one becomes two. and then we have a baby now, so it becomes 3. And honestly, talking about creativity and creating art and beauty and all that stuff, people often ask me, what do you think is your masterpiece work? Or have you ever done your masterpiece film? I don't know if I ever will, but I think my child will be my best creation, probably. Because it comes from a very pure idea, which is love, 2 people's love, and they make a baby, and this baby becomes a little bit of you, a little bit of her, and a little bit of the influence that's around, that their environment's in. And you hope that you can give this thing a good environment to grow up in. And so I think from now on, the rest of my life is going to be focusing on this, on the family. Maybe there'll be one more. We'll see. I don't know. but definitely my focus is, my gears are changing now to a different pace, slowing things down in life. I want to enjoy moments. So my baby's due June 1st, and from that point on, I'm taking a year off of all film work, just so I can spend with my baby, because I can do that. I mean, because I have the opportunity to do it, so why not? And I think, as you'll probably attest, it might be something quite valuable for me, right?
This is true admiration and appreciation about all this open discussion about career and also family and a lot of other things in lives. And I believe...
Yeah, and hopefully I'll have a picture like that.
See,
in the end
then let's prepare it all. So Tommy, would you have a couple of questions that you want to start off
sure.
as an architecture student, and then we can open the floor to our dear fellow students?
Yes. Well, you already have a career spanning more than 15 years as in film industry, and I was just wondering, because these are all students right here studying in their bachelor's program or graduate program, and probably when they first entered, they had a dream of becoming someone and to have a specific profession or career. But perhaps like what your experience is after your graduation, you made a shift. And perhaps there's a shift in your dream as well.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering is there a major shift from your initial dream?
I think, the medium is different. I went from architecture to film. But I think my creative process and what goes on in my mind is almost exactly the same. Because let's go back to some pictures here. I can relate architecture to film. Let's see here.
I read in a magazine article sometime before that Daniel likes to do collages.
Yeah. I stopped doing that, but I love it still.
Like image association.
Okay. What I learned from architecture and martial arts, how that applies, is discipline is most important. See, this guy's working hard. If you work hard in school, no matter what you study, you can apply that to the real world because it's discipline, it's hard work. That's what people appreciate. It's not specifically what you know, but your willingness and your openness to go into the workplace and figure things out, right? But architecture and film are very similar in that architecture, an architect starts with a sketch. This is a Frank Lloyd Wright's Guggenheim. And he starts with a sketch, and then the sketch becomes a plan. And the plan is something you get builders and electricians and glass people to come and help you build your final building, which is the Guggenheim in New York here. Now, filmmaking is very similar. You have as a director, you have an idea. The idea becomes a synopsis. The synopsis becomes a script. Here we got Django Unchained, Tarantino's newest movie. And then that is the script that you go and get crew, actors, people to help you build your dream. So, and then finally your final product, the movie. So the process is the same. I was able to go, okay, these are the similarities, and take them and apply it to film. And obviously there's a lot of stuff that doesn't transfer over, and that I had to learn on the job. But again, the discipline from before and the willingness to be open and accepting helped me get into the film business really quickly and fast. And if I didn't have that foundation, I don't think I'd be where I am today in the film business. So, yeah, my dad, at the very beginning when I first got into film, goes, "Didn't you waste 5 years of education?" I go, "Not at all, Dad, because if I didn't have that education, I wouldn't know what to do. I would be lost." And this really gave me the focus that what I wanted to do is find my creative freedom. That was it.
So the discipline is the same, it's just that there's a change in medium.
Sure, yeah. Sure. And then going back to what you're saying about finding what you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do right now, this minute, don't worry. You're young. You have time, okay? Not everyone's going to figure out right away. Some people don't even figure out what they want until they're 50 or 60, you know? And you will find it. Just keep the passion up. Keep your mind open. Keep experimenting. Be open is really important. Because going out there and in the real world, it's tough. It's a tough world. It's not like school. School was the best time in my whole life. College was the best time in my whole life because I could try anything. I could do whatever I wanted, and it didn't really have an impact. And you could make mistakes. You could fall down as many times you want, and it didn't hurt, right? But when you fall down in the real world, it can sometimes hurt. So you have to have the open mind. You have to have the gumption and the assertiveness to just keep going. Keep 坚持, 坚持.
Shall we have some questions from the floor?
I'm sure, plenty. Okay. I think that hand was the first one, and then second, third, yeah.
This one here? Okay.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there were 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Okay. Maybe 12 midnight. Maybe let's pass the mic to the first one. Yeah.
Sure.
Right here. Thank you, Alison. Thank you.
Testing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're on the air.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Yes.
Maybe one.
Maybe just one.
Sorry, I interrupt your answer. Because we have 10 hands at least.
That's the one question already.
Oh, you're tricky, Tommy.
I say, actually, as a celebrity, you have already achieved a lot of things. I would say, like rescuing the dogs, rescuing the environment. Like, do you have any achievement or anything you would like to do still? And then the second question, please, very short. Can I take a photo with you, like after this talk?
Okay. First question. Is there anything else I'd like to achieve? Lots of things. And actually, the things I've achieved also are not necessarily things I plan to achieve in life. The most important thing is like you kind of have a set goal. You have a goal or you have a focus where you want to go. But whether you achieve that goal in life is not so important. It's because what you learn, what you see along the way on that road is going to give you the substance of life. And that's what's going to give you success in life. So whether you hit that goal, it's not important. Sometimes you may hit it early, and then what do? You look for the next goal. You look for the next mountaintop to climb, and you just keep going and keep going and keep going. So yeah, there's a lot I like to achieve, stuff that I probably may not even know right now. I'd love my daughter to go to Harvard. You know, that's not me achieving it. That's maybe pushing her to achieve it. But you know, things like that, I don't know what's going to happen. But there's a lot. I would like to produce great movies. I'd like to win some more awards. I'd like to do some other things like that. But this is all, you know, it'll happen if it does happen, if it's meant to be.
Great. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wu. I'm Chutong from the Faculty of Education. I'm so excited to see you. And as a Hong Kong U student, I really want to, could you please recollect and share with us something interesting when you were playing The City of Glass in Hong Kong U? Thank you so much.
It was very interesting because we were working in several buildings that are no longer here anymore. And so, well, actually one, the Lady Odong Hall, right, with the dormitory. And so it was very interesting to be in that building in its last days. Because you could feel, and also because all the actors were dressed in that period of clothing. So we're walking around there and it felt like you were in a time machine going back to old Hong Kong. And that's what the whole movie is about. It's a nostalgia for old Hong Kong. And you could really feel that, the history of Hong Kong U.
You played as an architecture student.
Yeah, I played an architecture student. No, I played an architect's son, right? Okay. Who was, I guess, studying architecture because his dad wanted him to. Yeah, so it was a very, very interesting experience for me to understand the culture of Hong Kong U and how it's not very different from other universities. Every university has their own history and culture and stories, you know.
Thank you. Okay, the third question, please.
Hello, Daniel. I want to ask 2 questions as well.
Sorry, can I interrupt? Can you introduce yourself briefly and then one question?
Okay, I am now an MPhil student here in the Department of Earth Science. And please let me ask 2 questions.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And the first one is, could you do you have any special approaches or methods to cheer you up or bring you together when you feel very exhausted or upset or things like that? How's your method? And the second one is, I really want to know, can you share with us one routine schedule of your college day? How do you manage your college life? I'm really...
Oh, okay. That's
really
easy, actually.
And finally...
hey, you said 2.
Congratulations to your, I don't know, maybe your baby girl's marriage with Liu Ye's son.
We'll see about that. We'll see what he ends up looking like. If he's handsome, then maybe. But what was the first question again? So how do I cheer myself up? One thing that's been very consistent through my life is martial arts training and exercise and physical training, because I firmly believe that a healthy mind is a healthy body, or a healthy body is a healthy mind. So a lot of times when I feel really stressed or depressed, I go on a run, or I go to the gym, punch the boxing bag. If I'm mad at something, I go punch the bag a lot of times. And it helps. It does help. And I exhaust myself. And because in that moment when you're in the gym or you're doing some exercise, it could be something else. It could be a hobby, photographing, could be making clay pots. But if you can get your mind off of what is stressing you out for a moment, and like I said, pull yourself out of the situation, then come back into it with a clear mind, things become more clear again. And the problem will still be there. It's just that you might have a better way to deal with it at that point. So it's very important to have those outlets. And I think especially, like I see in Asia, especially students, study, 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 and nothing else. There's no, have no other life. It can be bad for you sometimes. You need to have a hobby. You need to have something that you have an outlet to go to that is not totally immersed in that environment. And the second question was what? Oh, college life, yeah. That was really easy because morning was individual architecture classes, and an afternoon was studio. And then, so studio, you would be there all day from like 1 o'clock until 6 o'clock. And I usually break for dinner and then come back to studio and work until 3 or 4 in the morning. I did that like a lot. Wow. Like architecture physically prepared me for filmmaking in that like there was like weeks,
time clock, yeah.
Like weeks I would not sleep for 3 or 4 days because I'm working on a project to try to get it in on time, right? Yeah. And I'm sure you guys know that, right? It hasn't changed. My life is still like that. I still work like, on a film when we're trying to get it done. The last few days can be really, really tough. And that kind of built up a physical discipline in me to be able to push through like very, very tough moments.
Great advices. Okay.
Hello, Daniel.
Where's the microphone?
Daniel. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of Fountainhead, and I know that in the book there is another character, Peter Keating.
Yeah.
The classmates of Harold Rock.
Yeah.
And after my reflection, I think even though we all want to realize our individual goals, we all want to realize our individual values,
yes.
But sometimes we just need to become Peter Keating to get the things done, to get a film filled, to get a building built.
Yeah.
So what's your way of tackle that situation?
I totally agree with that because in the book, Howard Rourke is a very stubborn individual, right? He is willing to go hungry for years in order to maintain his vision of what he feels architecture should be, which is great ideology, but not everyone can do that, So for me, it's more about finding the middle ground. I understand how this business works. You can't just kick down the door and go, this is how I'm going to do things. People won't like that. People don't like that kind of aggressive change. So you have to be smart and find a way to get your idea in the door without offending other people and doing things your way. My favorite song in the world still is Frank Sinatra's My Way because it's about an old guy basically whose life is near its end, and he's saying, I'm happy because I did everything the way I wanted to do it. So you got to find that balance. You got to find the harmony. And I think what you're saying is right. Keating and Rourke, if you can find a middle ground between the two, then you'll find a real harmony and happiness.
Okay, check that out. Where's the microphone? Okay. Please also introduce briefly where you're from.
Okay. Hi. I'm from the Faculty of Architecture, but I'm studying architecture. I'm studying real estate.
My name is Susie.
So you're smart. You're gonna make money.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope so. Okay, I got two questions too. The first one is, since you're an actor, so you have to appear in front of the TV a lot. And how do you keep your body so fit? Or are you just born to be so perfect? I'm just curious. And second one is, you are in the entertainment business, and I'm sure you have some friends from the other circle. And how do you manage to balance them? And I think probably they're not feel comfortable to appear in front of the press or whatever.
Sure.
So how do you entertain?
I mean, I'm not a very public person. Like, you don't see me in a lot of tabloids and all that kind of stuff. I avoid those things quite well. But going back to your first question, like I said, I've been doing martial arts my whole life. So exercise has always been part of my life. And if I don't exercise, I feel bad. I don't feel happy. So it's not something I do because I want myself to look good for the camera. It's something I do because I want my mental health to be good. And it's discipline also. Because sometimes let's say I'm in the gym boxing somebody and they're beating me down. I use that as an example of what life is. That guy is life, beating me down. And I have to figure out a way to get out of this situation and win it. And somehow in those little battles you win in the gym like that, help me in my real life. So those kind of things are inspiration for me. And so I have to have that. I have to have that as part of my life. It's not something I do because I think it'll make me make more money or more women will like my body because of that. No, it's something that I physically want to do. It's a goal of mine that I have to do. And I set these goals for myself because they parallel goals in real life.
Okay, it's great. It's natural and organic. And can you pass to that? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, this is Jacula from nursing, year 3. And I'm going to ask some question about your daughter. What kind of life are you going to give your daughter? Because let's say if she wanted to be a celebrity, would you encourage her to do so?
No.
And why?
Because it's a very tough business, and it's especially tough for females. Because whether you're good looking or not in the business, people talk about what you look like every day, all the time. And girls especially don't like that. And it's very tough. I mean, my wife, for guys, it's not a big deal. You just blow it off. But I think girls, when they're told, oh, you look fat today, you look tired today, you look blah, blah, blah today, it wears down on you very much emotionally. And I wouldn't want to force my daughter to have to go through something like that. If she wanted to, I mean, yes, if she went through the right training and all that stuff, I would allow her, I guess, to do it. But I'd rather her be a doctor or a lawyer.
Okay. She might end up choosing architecture though.
Yeah. Now I'm realizing my parents were right, actually.
Yeah, maybe. It's okay. Where's the microphone student, please? Okay. And the other one? Which one is closer? Okay.
Somebody.
Yeah, please
throw it to somebody.
Yes, have to pass on. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's the spirit. Yeah, individual to beat the collective. Okay.
Okay. Hi. So I have a question to you. As you didn't live in Hong Kong growing up.
Yeah.
What makes you want to stay in Hong Kong, and do you see yourself perhaps going back to the States or moving somewhere else, somewhere down the line in your life right now?
Yeah, I've always had a real deep connection to Hong Kong because I'd always had relatives here. My mom, she left Shanghai during the war with Japan, came down to Hong Kong at 2 years old, and then went to high school here, and then went to university in the States. But as a child, I think from 4 years old onwards, I came back to Hong Kong every other summer. So I had a very romantic view of Hong Kong. It was such a cool city. Because I could go anywhere by myself. I could get on I remember I came to Hong Kong when I was 13 by myself to stay with my cousin. And we'd get on the MTR, shooting around town, taking cabs everywhere. I couldn't do that in California because I lived in a suburb. And you have to rely on somebody driving you somewhere, or you have to ride a bike or something. But I was in a really exciting city. So from that point on, I really loved Hong Kong as a place. And I felt a really deep connection with it. And then when I got into Hong Kong movies and the whole culture, at that time, you have to realize, 1980s Hong Kong movies were so cool.
Yeah.
Everybody was really cool. John Woo and Chow Yun-fat, all those guys were so cool. And it gave me something to look up to because in the U.S., I didn't have Asian role models. It was I like Robert De Niro, but he's not Chinese. You know? I like those guys, but they're not the same culture as me, where I was watching films about my culture, but weren't talking about the culture. That was just the background. And I loved it so much. And Hong Kong has been so wonderful for me. And I really, very emotionally attached to Hong Kong, because everything I have now is what Hong Kong gave to me. It's what the Hong Kong people gave to me. Because if you think about it, it's a strange story. An American Chinese kid comes here, doesn't speak Chinese, gets in the film business, and has all this success. It's like not a real story. It's a fairy tale. But it happened to me. And I'm thankful for it every single day. And I'm so thankful for what Hong Kong has given me, and Chinese people have given back to me as a Chinese person. And that I can never forget. You know, Hong Kong is valuable to me. So whether I end up here in the future, I don't know. But it will always have that strong connection for me.
Being grateful. Big lesson to learn. Okay, let's catch up with the time. Okay, can you pass the microphone to the student there? Thank you. And please say, where you're coming from too.
Hi, Daniel. I'm Melody from Master Finance Program. And I just have a question of, do you like any place for some reason? Because we know you had held your wedding in South Africa, and you just got back from South Africa for your vacation in April, right? Just got back. So is there any reason? Because I'm a huge fan of you. So is there any reason you like the place so much? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, South Africa is a really beautiful country, and the place we go to where we stay is part of an area they call the Cradle of Mankind, which is where they think that humanity started from. So it's a very, you can see, very original, natural environment. And you can, and I don't know how to explain it, because when I go there, I feel this energy. It's like chi. A chi that comes from the mountains into me and makes me feel like alive. And I really believe it. I feel that energy. On the mountain behind the house where we live, crystals grow out of the ground. You can pick crystals out of the ground. So it's a very special, it's like what Disneyland is trying to create, but is fake. It's real. It's real there. You know, it's really real. It's a magical place, and you go there and it will change your life. And so I went there once and fell in love with it, and we just keep going back every year after year after year. And I like it because it's the complete opposite of Hong Kong. Hong Kong is it's great, very busy, fast-paced city. But sometimes your body, as a human, we're not meant to be that way. We're meant to be a little bit slower pace, but society and technology has made it so that we're working 24 hours a day now. Sometimes you need to take a break and do that, you know? Get out the dirty air, bring in the clean air, and start again. And so, that's what South Africa is for me.
And I believe that's also kind of back to the roots. I still remember...
Yeah, the roots of humanity, not just Chinese or blacks or whites or whatever. Human beings started from there. So you can feel that history and that energy there. I remember just 2 weeks ago, I was inside of a cave for half the day, just sitting there with my friends, drinking and having a bit to eat and stuff, and just looking at this cave, and we're like, you know, millions of years ago this cave was made, and we're sitting in it right now. It's amazing. It's amazing. You can't say that about too many places. You know.
Great. Okay, let's pass on to that student, and then this one, please. Okay. Thank you.
Hello. It's my honor to communicate with you.
It's my honor
don't forget to introduce yourself, please.
I'm from the medical faculty. I want to know, have you ever felt boring about your job or life? If you have, maybe a moment. If you have, how do you adjust yourself? And what makes you consistent on it?
Have I ever worried about my
job? Life?
You know what? It's funny. I never really did. Because I've had many jobs. Okay, I've been a waiter, I've been a dishwasher, I've been a bouncer in a bar, security in a bar, stopping fights, that kind of stuff. Yeah. I taught martial arts, so I always knew there was something I could fall back on to make money if that was my goal in life. But my goal in life was never to find that. My goal in life was, what am I going to find to make me happy, right? What job is going to make me happy? And basically, the job found me in this situation. I was very, very lucky that that happened. I know it doesn't happen to very many people. But the idea was in my head is like, I'm not going to worry about this because at the time I was 21, 22. I'm young. The time to make money is there's always time to do that. But to find what you like and what you want out of life is very hard. And it may not happen so easily. I think there's a quote here I found
great.
that relates to that.
Reference picture.
This one. Okay. Overcome the notion that you must be regular. It robs you of the chance to be extraordinary. And I always wanted to be something different. I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to do the regular job that everyone else does. I wanted to find my own place. And basically I found it that way. Which doesn't mean don't become an architect, don't become a lawyer. Become an outstanding lawyer. Become an outstanding architect. Don't take the norm and settle for less because that's what people are telling you should do. If you find it in your heart that you can be better than that, be better than that. And that's like what this quote is about. This is Uta Hagen. She's a famous acting teacher.
Fantastic. Let's move on to this side this time. Okay, this student, please. And then you can pass on to the next one, next, and then there, in the middle.
Okay, Daniel, nice to see you. I'm from the Faculty of Business and Economics. And I think maybe Hong Kong movies have got a lot of influence on you. And I want to ask, since I would say the Hong Kong movie industry now is not what it used to be.
Sure.
It's not what people used to be proud of. And it's still in its recession while the mainland movie industry is in a fast developing phase. So people are criticizing on even the nomination of the Hong Kong Film Awards. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't ask you to comment on the nominations, but are you afraid of losing such kind of culture of Hong Kong movie?
This is an interesting question because we can talk for hours on this one. I've talked a lot about this. There's goods and bads. I think what's happening now is a transition period to finding who we are now. Because I think Hong Kong people now are in a state of identity crisis. Yeah, exactly. Who are we? Are we mainland Chinese? We're not really, right? Actually, I shouldn't say we because I'm not born in Hong Kong. But Hong Kong people in general, they're not really mainland Chinese. But the mainland Chinese are on the way up. And Hong Kong is not really going in that same direction. So it's not just the film industry, it's this place in general. Who are we? What is our identity? And how are we going to move into the future? And I think all across the board, from government to business to the arts and culture, we all have to kind of move forward on our own and find our own identity. It doesn't have to be part of mainland. It can be its own thing. Look at Singapore. Singapore is doing it. Why can't Hong Kong do it? And they need to move in that way. But in the film business, I think I have my foot on both sides. I do mainland productions and I do Chinese productions. And I would say, yes, the mainland film industry is growing business-wise, revenue-wise, but creatively, I don't think it has grown. Because look at the movies that are being made. It's all the same stuff. It's all period 古装 movies, right? Or somebody does a romantic comedy and that's successful. Then everyone does that. That's not the right way to... That's not the correct business model for filmmaking. What you need to do is you need to tell the audience what they should be looking at, not the audience telling you what they should be looking at. So we're both, Hong Kong and China are both transitioning right now, and they're growing in different ways. Hong Kong is coming down off of a peak, right? From the early 90s, there was a high peak of over 300 movies a year. Now we're less than 30 movies a year, you know. And China last year was over 600 movies in 1 year. So we're growing, but it's growing in a very organic way, and we'll see what happens. So what I'm trying to do with my film production company, which was the second company on that list there, Diversion Pictures, is we're trying to do films that don't necessarily have to say we're a Hong Kong film or a China film or whatever. It's just a good movie. Because I think at the end of the day, a good movie is a good movie, and that's all that you have to worry about.
Thank you. So we're coming to the last few questions. Okay, here you go.
I'm Janice, and I'm a law student doing law, and I'm still thinking to be a lawyer in the future or not. But because you said that your dad or your parents all supported you, maybe they want you to be some professional. So how will your your family in your road of succeed? Is it that they maybe the expectation sometimes is an obstacle in your road to succeed, or they are your shelter or your force to push you towards succeed?
No, I think they pushed me pretty hard. I mean, our whole family, because I think they struggled so hard to find success in America. My dad, I think, what did he say? He had $500 in his pocket when he arrived in America, which is more than now. It would be like $5,000 US now, but still that's nothing, right? And he was able to build an upper middle class family, and he struggled through that, through discrimination. I remember they said when they first tried to buy a house in San Francisco, the one house they wanted to buy, it said on the contract, whites only. You know, this is in the 50s. They didn't sell to non-whites, you know, and they had to struggle through all that. So he wanted me to have a profession that I could fall back onto as a doctor or a lawyer, that no matter where I went, I could still use it, you know. Ended up not being what I ended up doing, but I understood the concept, which is you have to have a foundation, a strong foundation that you can bounce off of. So architecture was my foundation that I bounced off of, and that I grew the rest of the tree on. So that was just a seed. And then the tree is something different. So for you, your seed is law. You may become a lawyer tree. You may become some kind of, you know, advisor tree. You might be something else. You might become an environmentalist. You might be something else. But you have that seed, that foundation, and those roots that keep you stable. So when the wind blows, it doesn't blow you off your feet. You know, same thing with me. Was in this industry, I could have a conversation about a character or story plot because I use the foundation of architecture to back up my arguments when I'm talking about film. So it transfers over. Yeah.
Wow, this is GE. Okay, live education too. Okay, a couple more questions and I have to round it up. I'm sorry. Okay, front rows, yeah. These architecture students, I believe.
Yeah, let's hear some architects.
Let's hear some from them, yeah. And then maybe one more from that side. Okay. Maybe they have one synthesized question, okay?
Hello, Daniel. As an architecture student, I'm very curious about who is your favorite architect when you were a student?
When I was a student, I think it was Frank Gehry at the time.
Wow, the Guggenheim one.
Yeah. But he hadn't built no. Yeah, not the Guggenheim yet. He hadn't gotten into the crazy stuff yet. But like, I remember going to see some of his first house in LA and things like that. I was very into deconstructive and sort of postmodern stuff, but I was very into deconstructivism at the time. And all that stuff was concept, theory. And then like Zaha Hadid, Rem Koolhaas, all those people, they were doing concept stuff when I was in school. This is 18 years ago I'm talking about. Now they're actually building stuff. So it's very exciting for me to see that stuff built now. Because of technology, because of computers and all that stuff, they can actually figure out how to build those things that they didn't know how to do before. So I was really into people that were doing different things. Of course, I like the classics like Frank Lloyd Wright and all those people as well. But I was always into who was on the edge and who was pushing the boundaries, you know.
Maybe one more from here. Okay.
We are landscape architecture students. Can I ask this question in Mandarin?
Sure.
Sure. 我知道就是你就是扮演过很多成功的角色，但是对我来说印象最深刻或者说比较有感触的就是在《单身男女》这部电影中，你扮演的。是
因为我是建筑师吗？
对对。就是因为当时设计的那个建筑，你是抓住了就是女主角的背影去做这样一个建筑，然后我就是觉得在我们在 studio 的设计中，有的时候也会想怎么去抓住一些灵感或者什么，然后我就会想说，你是不是在这部电影里面有没有说，就是在扮演自己曾经一个 architecture student 这种经历，或者是你曾经有没有在 studio 的设计中去怎么去抓住这些灵感？
每一个 project 都会有不同的方法去抓住这种灵感吧，因为每一个 project 都不一样吧，所以每一个 project 都有不同的 concept， 不同的灵感吧。那我记得有一个 project 就好像那个《单身男女》里边就那个形容那个 building 的 form 就像一个女人的身体吧。那好像我最后第4年的一个 project。我们要找一个方法，就跟你以前的方法完全不一样，不是你画出来的，所以我们就 拿了一些木头，就做母型的木头 model 的木头，然后就 ring 在那个 scanner 上面，然后 scan， 然后拿出来看那个 scan， 然后那个 scan 变成我们的 plan， 然后 elevation， 所以用一个完全跟你以前习惯的一种方法，就变成另外一种方法吧，一个比较 abstract， 另类一点的方法去做。所以每一个 project 都会找不同的灵感，不同的方法去 inspire 自己吧。
Okay. Is there one more from the architecture students? Okay, one more, and then we have to catch the real last one, or maybe just something like that. Okay.
All right. Hello.
Please go ahead.
Hello, Daniel. I'm not an architecture student, but
okay.
I'm studying art, so I would like to ask you 3 questions, if that's not too much.
Sure.
Okay.
I also was art history minor.
Huh?
So I was an art history minor, so I still know some art stuff.
Which director, actor, or producer that you worked with inspires you the most? And then the second question would be, what would be the focus of your film company that you opened up with Stephen Fong? Like, what sort of films would you like to work on? And have you ever dreamt of getting Best Actor in Hong Kong Film Awards after being nominated for a couple of times?
Yeah, getting an award is it's a funny business. Sometimes when you watch these award ceremonies, the person you think should win doesn't win, and sometimes the person that wins, you question why they won. So those kind of things, you can't put a lot of value on that. But of course, I'd love to win a Best Acting Award or Best Directing Award, because I think it just shows a collectively agree that you've done good work. So yeah, I don't think it's a goal, but I definitely like to do that. When I look at a project, when I look at a film, I don't go, oh, this is a great movie that I'm going to win an award for. Because once you get into that goal-oriented sort of philosophy, it's not the greatest way to go about a project. Because you don't look at it as a individual creative entity on its own. You think of it as something with attachments. If I do this, I get this out of it. You shouldn't think of it that way. I don't even think about movies in terms of, I'm going to do this movie because it pays well. No, I never think of that. I do this movie because something in that character touches me. And if I do it well, then the result of that is you may get an award. And so really what I focus on is just trying to do the character well. Sometimes I get nominated, sometimes I don't. So far I haven't won anything. So hopefully maybe one day I will. The focus of the production company, Divergent Pictures, is because Stephen and I got tired of complaining for so many years about why movies haven't changed in Hong Kong, and we want to do something different. And then we realized, running a business is very difficult. So it took us a year or two to sort of get on our feet and do our first movie, which was Tai Chi Zero and Tai Chi Hero, which we were able to just start to do what we wanted to do, was add some elements into the film that you'd never seen before in period kung fu movies. We added this whole steampunk visual effects thing, and then we all added these kind of video game, very young graphics over the top of it to try to spruce things up a bit, but still based on a very traditional kung fu story. But we're trying to be progressive, just like I was saying earlier, that quote, "Don't be ordinary, be extraordinary," and we're trying to do that with our films.
Thank you, and I believe it has to be the last question of the day. It's really hard for me. Tommy, you choose. Okay.
I'll choose the closer one.
This one?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Please, Alison.
Thank you. Hi, Daniel.
Hi.
Big fan as well.
Thanks.
So
Where are you from? Where are you from?
I'm from Master of Economics.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Crystal. Yeah. I want to ask: have you ever feel lost, about your career or any other moments in your life? If so, how did you keep yourself back on the right track?
Well, I think I answered part of that question earlier in terms of, where I came up in hard times. How do I deal with hard times? Which is, you pull yourself out of the situation, think about it, and come back to it. And then also friends are very important. Colleagues are very important. Go to people, talk to people about your issues. Because if you hold it inside, it's never going to get resolved. No one can solve everything all by themselves. So I think it's something very, pertinent to Asian culture, because in Asian culture we're not used to expressing everything how we feel all the time, especially our insecurities. But like those things are things that you need to talk about with mentors or with your, big sister, big brother, somebody that can help you get perspective and get another perspective on it.
Thank you. And on that note, I'm afraid we have to round it up and really thank Daniel and his crew again. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
And I would like to quote one saying from one of your inspirations, Mr. Lou Bezon, who has come to a GE lecture last year too. Yeah. He has said, it's the small people, each and every one of us here, that change the world, change the big things, not the politicians and not the big guys. So I would say this is one of the metamorphoses from yourself and your personal level, from an individual's perspective, to change the world, to change the collective fate of the Mother Earth and whatever it takes. Yeah. And thank you.
Well, and also I just want to add to that. Don't rely on those people either to make changes for you.
Yeah.
You have to be, Gandhi said this, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. So if you want the world to change, you got to start from yourself and just change your things in your life. And that might affect the person next to you, your brother, your sister, your father, your mother. And then that might affect your cousins, and that might affect other people. Don't rely on our chief executive to save our environment. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. He has other things to worry about. So it's up to us to do it as individuals. And don't think just because I'm a star, only I can do it. All of you can do it. Everyone can do it. So follow your passion, follow your desires, and do what you want to do.
So hold on to your dreams, okay? Yeah. Thank you again, Daniel. Woo! Yee-hoo! And on behalf of HKU GE, I'd like to present two souvenirs to you. The first is the centenary celebration. Wow. Is a collector's item. Oh, cool. Is a first day stamp. You can open it up.
Wow.
Yeah, so phone. And this is our GE souvenir, is a well-traveler's plug. Wherever you go, we bring your daughter and your wife and the family.
Perfect, perfect.
To go everywhere. So, yeah, let's take a picture here first. And then I remember somebody asked whether we can take a picture with Daniel. Of course, but we're going to take a group picture, big group picture. How about that? Isn't it a happy Friday? So I'm going to invite Daniel to sit down there. And then we try to invite our photo. And hey, hold on, don't move. Just stay on wherever you are. Otherwise, we won't take that, okay? Promise? Otherwise, we won't go down. Okay, stay on wherever you are. We try to take like a collage picture. Okay, hold on. Stay cool. Okay. No. Okay, otherwise we won't do that. Sit down, please. Okay, Daniel, yeah. Okay.
Sit down.
And let's see how a photographer will do. Okay, sit down. Otherwise, we won't take this and we will leave right away. Okay? And we can do collage from this part, center part, and then the right part. Okay? We'll make sure everybody will be in the picture. Okay?
Everyone sit.
Okay, hold on. Okay, let's sit down. Okay. Okay, 3, 2, 1. How about that hole? Is it all in the picture? Okay, this part. Okay, and hold on. Okay. Maybe you can do that angle frame from that side and that side, okay? And you move and we won't move, okay? Anybody move, we will leave. Okay, so I'm sorry to say that because security and safety is the first priority in life, all right? Yeah, I'm being your parent now, okay? Okay, hold on. One more from this angle, okay? Hold on. Otherwise, somebody might be out of the picture frame. Okay, hold on. Cheers and hold on to your dreams and your smile. I know this is a very, very rare opportunity and one of these days in your life. Okay, so we all got it done? Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
A round of applause again for our very special guest.
Be well.
Hi, can I get everybody to sit down first? All right.
Okay, please remain calm. Please remain calm.
Please remain at your seat, please.